Welcome to Flix List here on WHYR 96.9. This is Baton Rouge Community Radio Station, and you're tuned in to the next half hour of movie reviews and movie talkathon.
Yes, it's one of the most beautiful things you can probably partake of in any given week, honestly.
Like audio ecstasy. I'm DJ Clay.
I'm DJ Chewy.
And we're missing again this week RCL.
God, my heart, the pitter-patter of my heart, the longing.
Our buddy RCL is missing again this week, again because he's working on a movie. So we're happy for him that he's busy working, and he's working on a movie locally here, which is exciting because the film industry, no longer a thing of faraway exotic places, but it's right here in our own backyard, which is super exciting.
It's awesome.
So movie nerds and those who like good things for the economy alike celebrate today.
If you hate movies but you love the economy, this is great for you too.
Bring it. All right, so let's get it started. You want me to go first?
Yeah, go right ahead.
The first movie I'm going to review is called Unmade Beds. It's a 2009 movie directed by Alexis dos Santos and starring Deborah Francois and Fernando Telive, I believe, is how you say that. It's a European movie that is breaks between Spanish, French, and English.
So
all three
everyone's
languages.
frustrated.
Everybody's equally frustrated. No, it's not true because Europeans don't mind reading subtitles. Yeah. Only Americans hate subtitles. So only the Americans are still frustrated.
You mean I have to work for enjoyment? Oh, this is preposterous.
God, if I had to read, I'd be reading a book, and who does that? So the movie is a delightful, youthful romp for the more morally prude. I don't want to say prude, in a bad way, but for the more morally prude, it's going to be some eye-raising things. But the movie is about a group of young European hipsters, and I don't mean to use hipsters as a pejorative term because they are certainly enchanting. I mean, because they have foreign accents, they seem magical and artsy, whereas in America, they just seem annoying and like they're spending too much of their parents' money. But they're sort of this artsy group of bohemian youths in Europe, and their two main characters seem sort of obsessed with beds. One, the male character, whose name is Axel, he is obsessed with beds because he felt like he traveled too much as a kid, and so he wonders, how many beds have I slept in my life? My parents moved me around time and time again. Actually, his mom moved him around time and time again. His quest is he's trying to find his father, who he believes lives in England, which is where the movie is set.
Yeah.
And so he's counting beds as he sleeps in them, but he gets very drunk every night, and he ends up in somebody's bed every night. He's a new bed. He's a handsome, charming young fellow, and so he's got a new bed to add to his list every night. And the female character named Vera, who is just sort of a little lost. I thought she was French, but doing research for this movie, I found she's Belgian. No matter where she's from, she is cute anywhere she is. I mean the kind of cute that I'm madly in love with her, to the point that it really upset my fiance. Until she realized that she was madly in love with the male character, and we just called it even.
So,
but she's just sort of got a little wanderlust, and she feels lost and isolated. But she takes a picture of every bed she sleeps in. It's sort of like a little artistic, lonely photo. And these two characters sort of travel around each other, and we pick up with one character, we leave off, we pick up with another character. They do that in a very positive way, and then at the very end, they meet, and they don't fall in love like you cliched would expect, but they meet at the very end, and they give each other something emotionally that the other needs.
Interesting.
Which, I'm not giving away the ending. These two characters are going to meet. Yeah. They live in the same house. They just don't know each other.
You're not going to have a movie with a central theme centered on it seems like two main characters.
Yes.
So you're not going to have two main characters and have them live completely separate lives in which they never...
They never cross paths. And they all lived happily ever after. But yeah, it's a beautiful movie. It's certainly everything you want out of an independent feature, especially a European one. So if you like those indie dramas that are real slice of life human stories. This was incredibly human. It was incredibly touching. You really do fall in love with both of these characters in their almost desperate and futile attempt to find love and connection in the modern world. Mm-hmm. Not new ground they're breaking.
Interesting. So
but certainly well handled.
Since they have two central characters, that is a little bit of a tougher thing to do as a writer.
To make your audience like both of them.
Like both of them.
Right.
You have to emotionally connect with your central character, and that just makes the job twice as hard when you have two. Did they successfully do that?
Yeah, I feel like they really did. And it's also a good thing of timing it. Like when you watch Lord of the Rings, any movie where there is obviously different threads, and you should always, at the moment that your audience says, I wonder what's happening with that other group of people, cut to that other group of people. It's a natural sense of timing and a natural sense of wonderment that we have. Oh, yeah, wait, what's happening with? And they did a really good job with that. Every time I said, what's happening with Vera? Vera's story was right around the corner, and so they timed it really well. So I kept asking myself what was going on with the other person. And they kept supplying me with that information. And so in that regard, they keep you engaged. And if you're annoyed by dramatic European hipsters, you might not like either one of these characters. But I challenge that both are kind of charming, and you should just open yourself to this idea that, okay, they're probably not magical creatures, but gosh darn it, it's fun to pretend,
So what do you think? Do you have more to say, or would
no,
you want to
give
it a 5-star rating?
I give this. We do three and a half stars.
We do half stars.
Yeah. Let's do half stars.
Right.
I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. Almost 4. But it's a very simple story. It's very simply done. The acting is very simple, but natural, very naturalistic acting. And the movie delighted me. It was an hour and a half well spent.
Good.
3.5 stars.
Glad to hear it.
It's coming for me.
Please listen to me. There's nothing coming for you.
How do I get rid of this?
I love you.
All right, coming up next is Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah, this is a movie that I watched about a week ago. It's a 2009 satirical horror flick by the one and only Sam Raimi. It's obviously in the same vein of his previous work, Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2.
Spider-Man.
Not
in that
vein. That's a severed limb more than a vein right there. But yeah, so Sam Raimi directed it, of course, and it's starring Alison Lohman, Justin Long, and Ruth Livier. Let's go with
Livier. Sounds great.
Sounds wonderful.
So you say satirical horror. But let's talk about that real quick, because when I think of Evil Dead, I mean, that's like the first descriptive term that I can think of. In this, with the trailers, it does not feel satirical. It feels like a straight-up horror movie.
It does. It's very interesting the way that this movie was marketed, at least from the trailers that we're able to watch online and things like that. It's very much presented as a straight-up horror movie. But you can tell, like, if no one had told me that Raimi directed and wrote this movie, and you showed it, maybe the first 20 minutes to me, I'd be like, this is a Raimi film. I know for a fact. Absolutely. It's almost like this was his attempt later, certainly not like late in life, but, later in life past his Evil Dead phase when he was young, where he's finally kind of honed the craft that he's wanted to hone, which is self-aware, somewhat comedic horror. I mean, it's definitely a horror movie, but it has its comedic elements, just like Evil Dead does. And you get the sense that he has kind of perfected this in this movie, honestly.
Excellent. Well, give us a little plot summary. I feel like I got you off track because I was like, oh man, satirical horror. Yeah. This did not seem like that.
Exactly. And I think part of the reason is because he did a really good job of the horror aspect of the movie. He was able to implement both of those sides fully developed into the exact same story. So it's a story about this young woman, main character Christine. She's up for a promotion, and she's up against a guy who's a little cutthroat, and she really wants the job, and she works at a bank. She winds up getting asked to have a loan from the bank by this old gypsy woman. And, ultimately, let's just cut to the chase. The gypsy woman puts a curse on her, and because of this curse, she now has a demon that haunts her named the Lamia. And apparently this is a very feared demon, and she's basically going through the throes of what you would imagine as a regular person.
They fall in love? This is a love story, right? They meet. They hate each other at first. They get to know each other.
Reconcile their differences.
There's a montage of musical, nice music where they get to know each other, and then they love each other in the end.
Exactly. They ride a bicycle together, just like, Sundance Kid.
No, that is not what happens.
That is not at all what happens. I really hope someone tuned out right after we said that and thought that that's what this movie was about, because that would be fantastic. So yeah, basically she's running for her life, trying to figure out a way to end this, torment. And it's very self-aware. A lot of the horror is over the top, as you would expect from a Raimi film, but he also obviously has a decently large budget for this movie compared to his previous works, Spider-Man excluded, of course. So, of course, what he's able to accomplish with the budget that he has in this movie makes it a much more fully developed thing. One thing that I found really interesting about this movie is that with things like this, horror, satirical horror, self-aware horror, you don't necessarily have to have fully well-developed characters. Your main character, you want to be very well-developed, but your, characters on the periphery, your auxiliary characters,
right,
they can be kind of flat.
The main character's boyfriend is the guy who doesn't believe her.
Oh, gosh.
Like you heard in the intro, the trailer intro that we played, honey, there's nothing that's haunting you. Of course there's that character.
Absolutely. You've got the dissident,
But you feel like it's forgivable. It seems like it's par for the course and that it's not really the concentration.
Yeah, and that's the way that it normally is. I'm not saying that I like having flat characters in my movies, but it's something that I accept. That's what a lot of people do. But in this movie, the auxiliary characters are actually pretty well developed. Her opposition, the person who's vying for her promotional position against her, at first seems kind of like a straightforward, single goal, flat character kind of guy. But he develops a little further on, and the same thing happens with a lot of them.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Good storytelling.
Yeah, it's going a little above and beyond what people expect, but it makes for good entertainment, good movies, good story.
Fantastic. What's your feel on this?
That's a good question. Sadly enough, doing a review show, watching a movie, knowing that I'm going to review it, you would think that I would already have a
5-star rating ready.
But I haven't even thought of it until now. So let me just mull over the numbers, crunch the numbers, talk to my accountant. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 3-star rating.
Your accountant approves.
Exactly.
Is your accountant like my mistress? Invisible and non-existent?
Yes, I think they actually are roommates.
Yeah, Don't tell my fiance, but I have an invisible girlfriend.
When Clarence arrived at the Lark Hall retirement home, it was the last place he wanted to be.
A lot of jabbering simpletons rushing about, people you don't know telling you what to do.
Who is he, Dad?
Some old fart lost his wife.
For Edward,
Oh, is she dead?
growing up in Lark Hall, life was anything but ordinary.
This used to be my room.
Yeah, well, I used to have a beautiful wife and all my own teeth. Your life changes.
All right, so now hearing that beautiful exposition that we just listened to, please explain to me, good sir, what is this movie?
The movie is called Is Anybody There? It's a 2008 indie film directed by John Crowley and starring the fantastic Michael Caine and Bill Milner. Michael Caine, you should know. He is one of my favorites, and in his old age has become, the most self-aware, interesting old man I can imagine. The roles he chooses are so fantastic. And then Bill Milner, if you're a fan of the movie Son of Rambo, which is a great touch. We should review that.
Yeah, we should. I know that you
it's
love
a
that movie.
great movie, and he's one of those child stars that comes along once in a Blue Moon, who is just so pure and so honest and not a child actor, just a person and a great little actor because of it.
Yeah.
Okay, but the movie is sort of it's about an old man and a boy who become friends. But the boy's parents, to his horror, have turned their house into an old folks home. The economy's bad. They figure people are always going to be getting old, and they're trying desperately in its first year of existence to run this funeral home. But the little boy doesn't have he's not popular. He doesn't get along well at school, and most of the people he's interacting with are old, senile people, which makes for a great, fun cast because the house is full of crazies.
Wait a second. You just said funeral home real quick.
No. I'm sorry. Old folks home. It's bad, man. These people, but I mean, But he becomes obsessed with death. In that he has this little tape recorder. The movie takes place in the 80s, and he has this tape recorder that he leaves in sick old folks' rooms so that he can record their last moments. And of course, it's unbeknownst to them. And Michael Caine's character moves in, and he is a crotchety old man, miserable old fart who used to be a magician. So this guy who you imagine once had a lot of life and humor to him.
Yeah, he had a love of the wonderment that can exist in life.
Absolutely. Is now this really grumpy old man who wants not to be there in the worst way. Yeah. So the old man who is facing death, he's at the end of his life, sees the young boy who is obsessed with death. And it's not a touching story where he reaches out to him and teaches him to appreciate life. He almost by accident, completely against his will, ferociously fighting it every second of the way, teaches the young boy to appreciate life. He does his duty, but he's pissed off about it the whole time.
So I'm wondering that, it begs the question to me, what made this once filled with wonderment individual into the crotchety, bitter person that he seems to be? Do we find that out?
Yeah, it's loneliness. We find that he had, they tell us that he had a beautiful wife who passed away before him, and then there's a twist at the end that we find out about the him and his wife that I don't want to give away because the whole time you feel sort of like, oh right, his wife died. Great, but it's really not what happened. Okay. And the reason that he's so unhappy is actually far truer to life. And, it's far less of a movie cliche and actually really makes this character a wonderfully three-dimensional character. And I love that they never really break him. You know what I mean? Like, typically in a movie like this, the child teaches the old man to live, and the old man teaches the child something he needs to know. And in this movie, he doesn't fix.
That's interesting.
They allow him to be a real person.
Yeah, sometimes that just happens. Sometimes you get set in your ways. Sometimes you've been hurt too much.
And he doesn't need. I'm not saying he doesn't learn anything throughout the course of a movie. He grows. He has a character arc. But he's not there to just be reawakened by this young man. Like, it's not the stereotype that you'd be afraid of. It's really a true, honest movie. And the little boy is fantastic. Fantastic, and he's a great actor. I can't say enough good things about him.
That's awesome. A very good, heartfelt child actor is a rare thing to come by.
Very. The two people that it plays, his parents are hysterical. His parents are having a lot of problems. He hates being in this place. And there's like some help that they've hired. That the dad is having the worst, like the classless. Whatever the opposite of classy is, the most classless midlife crisis one could have, and he's like hitting on the help, and it's like embarrassingly funny. They've done a great job with this movie, but it's quiet and it's slow, and it's very much an independent film in that way, where they're not reaching out and grabbing you. You have to work with this movie. But I always argue that a movie that you have to work with at the end is far. You'll appreciate it far, far more once you put in the effort. And this is definitely one of those movies where it's worth putting in the effort.
Gotcha. So it seems to me like we're watching a live-action version of Up, except for when the crotchety old man tries to learn, or tries to get taught a lesson, he doesn't.
Yeah. You know what? I'm old and I can stay grumpy. Yeah, there's no talking dog. You know what I mean? Like, Up is a great movie unto itself, but it's very different. It's trying to accomplish something else.
Yeah.
This movie is not trying to be an uplifting story,
Yeah.
and it ends up being an uplifting story in spite of itself.
That's awesome.
You know?
Layers, my friends.
Yeah, layers of flavors.
Ogres are like onions.
So I think I gave this movie a 4-star rating because
Oh,
it
wow,
really did
okay.
capture my heart. It totally
4 to
did what
5.
it didn't do what I wanted it to do, but it did something better.
The bloodhound not only has a great nose, but they can talk.
What you doing, bloodhound doggy?
What you do? What you do? And he's saying, I'm ready. That's when you know he's ready for show.
The goal is that best in show ribbon.
So, of course, in this Thanksgiving season that we just had last week, every year after the parade, they play the beloved dog show, which most people turn the TV off and go take a nap during. But I happened to actually catch it and watch it, and I found it really enjoyable. In an homage to that, in the name of the season, we're going to go ahead and review Best in Show.
Christopher Guest director, genius, the man who invented well, I hate to say invented, but God, did he had to have invented the mockumentary.
If honestly, I feel like there must have been something before him, but he's definitely the one who took the medium and ran with it and made it something beautiful and led to tons of other things. The Office and Parks and Recreation, whatever mockumentary you can think of probably came after.
And there's a funny thing that the idea of the reality television show actually came after the mockumentary. Now, the mockumentary was making fun of documentaries, but the reality, so much of that style has been copied now by people who are trying to make real TV. Yeah, which is hilarious.
It's funny because this movie was made in 2000. Of course, we had some reality show TV stuff with MTV, but it wasn't really big.
And also, but they were doing it with Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
Decades before.
That's definitely true. So you're right. He did start this off and reality TV came after it. The funny thing is that reality TV is not real in the least amount. I've got friends who are, film editors out in LA. And my one friend, Greg, he's an editor for Hell's Kitchen. And it's almost ridiculous how scripted and edited together things are. They'll take two people fighting. It'll look like two people fighting. In reality, the two people weren't even in the same room, and one person was just complaining about the other person to their comrades, stuff like that.
So I think what it does, though, is because reality TV for us is so scripted, it makes these movies feel all the realer.
Exactly, because that's what our experience and our understanding of what reality TV is anyway. So
it's already scripted. So these things that actually are scripted feel incredibly real. And the comedic actors that they choose for these roles, which they always have a huge cast of lots of different people, never really concentrating on one character. But they're fantastic for these because they're great comedic actors who are probably doing a lot of improv and
I think
are really making it very real feeling.
Yeah, all of the characters, all of the actors and actresses definitely took on the personality of their characters and made each one unique and different and made it their own. One thing that I wanted to touch on that you just mentioned, I find really interesting, is that there is no actual central character. And normally in a movie, that's what we need as an audience to be able to connect with the story. We need to follow one person. Even if there's an interesting setting that we're being a part of, and that's like, for example, Avatar. The point of it is the beauty and wonderment of this new world, not necessarily following what's-his-face, saving the aliens.
Pocahontas?
Yeah, whatever. You got it. I'm probably the only person in the world who's not, enthralled by Avatar. But anyway, that's not the point. We need that central character, even if the point of the story isn't them.
And what I actually think is funny about his movies, Christopher Guest's movies, which, Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, Spinal Tap, what actually ends up being the central character is the goal. What he has is a bunch of characters who are all chasing the same thing. In Spinal Tap, it's rock stardom. In Waiting for Guffman, it's putting on this production, this play. In this, it is getting the prize, Best in Show.
Yeah, so the
with
prize
these
itself.
stupid little dogs.
That's interesting. And yeah, the prize itself then becomes a central character, like you just said, which is something I hadn't thought of. That's amazingly insightful, my dear friend.
I have my moments. They're rare.
And now, expounding on that, it would seem like we learn more about our central character, our goal, through each person's actions. So each person who's shooting for the goal then reveals more about the central theme itself. I can't say enough amazing things about Christopher Guest. I love him to death. He's one of my top 3 favorite directors, right up there with the Coen brothers and Wes Anderson. Those are my favorite picks, and Christopher Guest has just as much to offer as the other two, as far as I'm concerned, even though he is a little much in the vein of his own style. But it's a beautiful thing that, like you say, he's pioneered this
almost
style.
has invented a genre. If one was to say, this person invented comedy. It's no small feat to invent
Absolutely not.
a genre, and he's done it really well, and he's explored it through a long, illustrious career. And
I think he's provided us with a long list of things that have followed him, not even made by him, that we've been able to enjoy.
Absolutely. Well, all right. Are you ready for a 4-star rating? Because I think we've gushed about this movie as much as we can.
Yeah, we can totally give it a rating out of 5 stars.
Out of 5 stars.
Out of 5 stars.
You didn't just say you gave it 5 stars.
No, you.
Right, out of 5 stars.
Well, you said give it a 4-star rating, and I was correcting you. We do the 5-star.
Yeah, you know what I was doing? I was giving away my answer.
Bum bum bum.
So I would give it 4 stars.
All right,
I love this movie.
I'm gonna have to agree with you. It was amazing, and I'm gonna have to give it 4.5, which might be the highest rating I've ever given.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm the only one who ever gives 5-star ratings. Ever. Nice. Chase is the worst. Chase believes that to have a 5-star rating, it has to be the greatest movie of all time. So there's only one movie ever made that gets 5 stars. It wouldn't be like the top 10% of all movies ever made. It's the one greatest movie of all time. Impossible. So that's all the time we have this week for Flix List. It just flew by for us.
Oh man, I've got to say it's the highlight of your week to hear me. And it gives me pleasure to know.
To allow you to hear our golden voices. Oh, my goodness. Well, join us again next week for the highlight of your week here on WHYR 96.9.